Hey guys, welcome back to 3UNDR3. Today I'm gonna do a quick get ready with me / talk about my hospital birth experience. So let's get started with that. It's gonna be fun. I have to do it as a get ready video because I just don't have enough time to do it separately. So let's go. All right guys, so it's kind of weird. I have to talk to you while I get ready because I only have like a short window when I can do things, and I have to get out of the house today with the babes to take them to a doctor's appointment. So today is a weigh-in day. They get weighed pretty frequently. We were just there a week ago and we have to go back today. So yeah, going back and we'll see how they're doing. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about what it was like to have twins and what the process was and kind of how everything went down. So I wanted to post this video. I was actually going to try and do it while I was in the hospital, but I just didn't have time with two babies. And unfortunately, my husband wasn't able to stay with me in the hospital because we have a daughter and he needed to be home with her. So he had to be taking care of her. He couldn't stay with me, so I had to stay by myself, and that meant like I couldn't film. I had to take care of two very, very needy infants. So that was what happened. That took precedence, obviously. So I went for my appointment at 36.5 weeks. It was on a Wednesday, and that was the day that I thought I was going to be induced. That was like the plan, according to my OB, was if the babies hadn't come by 36.3 that she would induce me like that day. At least that's what she said leading up to all of this. And then I went that day and I had this super long ultrasound, and by the end of the ultrasound, like I was texting my husband and I'm like, I can't do this anymore, like I'm gonna cry. Like if I have to have another ultrasound, like I think it was like 2.5 hours. I was literally laying there for like 2.5 hours getting this ultrasound done, and by the end I said to my husband, like I just can't do this anymore, like it's ridiculous. I've had enough. Like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I just want to be done with this, get them out. So I went up to see her, and it was like a long wait. I don't know why it was such a long wait, but it was. So I ended up walking across the street and getting a Starbucks, like putting my name in, coming back. And then when I ended up seeing her, she did a cervical check on me because they wanted to see, like, are you dilated at all? Like, what's going on? And when they checked me, I was 3 centimeters dilated, which I was really excited about because with my first, I was 0 centimeters when I went in. And so they had to dilate me manually, basically. And that was awful. That was like the worst part, was being induced and having to have the Foley catheter because it was just really painful for me. Some people say it's not that bad, but for me, it was really bad. So I was really hoping to avoid that, and I did, thank God. So when they saw how dilated I was, they asked me a few other questions, like, are you having contractions? How are you feeling? Whatever. And I told them, you know, like, I'm feeling heavy. I'm feeling tired. I'm sore, but contractions wise, like, it hasn't been too bad. Like, little ones here and there, but nothing major. So I don't know if it was because of that or because they were just really busy in L&D that day, but she decided that she was gonna let me go. So she was just gonna let me go home, and they would book me to be induced another day. See what I mean? Like, I don't get a break. They're already crying and I've been here for like 3 minutes. I just set them down. So it's probably my little boy, and he has probably dropped his sucky. So just give me a sec and I'll be right back. So it was a little man. I knew it. I'm at the point where I can tell they're different cries. He's very like whiny, and she's very, it's weird because she has a super aggressive cry. Like when it's her, you know it's her. I don't know if you guys can see, but I wore my sunglasses in the pool for way too long because there's like a really obvious difference here on my nose. Oh my God. I think I don't go out very much anymore. Told me that I would be induced on the Saturday. So this was on the Wednesday. They said, nope, you're gonna be induced on the Saturday. So what you'll do is you'll take this paper, read it through, and then on Saturday morning at 7:30, call L&D and they'll tell you either we're too busy, hold off, or yeah, we're good, come on in. So I went home that night and I was a bit crampy because she did like a minor stretch and sweep for me. She didn't do anything too crazy. She just did like a very small stretch and sweep just to kind of get things moving. And she said, you know, you might go naturally before Saturday. She's like, but if not, like, it's fine. So I wasn't sure. I had lots of cramping that night. I had lots of cramping Thursday night, but it wasn't anything that was like consistent or solid enough that I would ever go to the hospital for it. It was just like a little bit here, a little bit there. So anyways, Wednesday passed, Thursday passed, and then Friday came. And on Friday night, I said to my husband at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I said, I'm like, I've been having some contractions and they're a little bit stronger than they were the past 2 days. Like, I don't know, like I'll probably make it to tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning, but I might not. So like, go and have a sleep and get yourself rested up, because I can't sleep right now because I'm super stressed and I am having contractions, so I'm in pain. So I went to bed and I slept Thursday night, but then Friday night I didn't sleep at all because by 1 in the morning things had picked up enough that I was getting nervous. And my OB had specifically told me, if you find yourself in a situation where you think you're in labor, it's really important that we monitor the babies on the heart rate monitor the entire labor. So as soon as you feel like you're having consistent contractions, we want you on a heart rate monitor, just because one of the babies had growth restriction. So historically, I guess sometimes babies that are growth restricted don't do as well during labor because of the like being squeezed. They just don't tolerate it as well. So she wanted me to be on a monitor. So I said to my husband, like, we need to go. We're gonna go to the hospital now. They told me to come in. So when I called labor and delivery, they said, yeah, if your doctor's worried, you can come in. We ended up deciding to go around, I think we left the house around 4, because I was just like, I was delaying it. I'm like, I want to get there at such a time that they won't send me home. So we got to the hospital at about 5 in the morning. They checked us in and they hooked me up for a non-stress test. And they said, yeah, you're definitely like starting labor. You're not like actively in labor, but you're like starting it, where you're having contractions that are pretty regular, but not like close enough together that we'd be like, oh yeah, like full-fledged, here we go. So they had a resident come in and check me, and she said, yep, you're 4 centimeters, so we can go ahead with the induction without doing anything else. We can just induce you. And I was super pumped about that. So then around, by this time it was like 7, maybe 7:30. So they took me into my room where I would labor and have the babies, except that I had to end up having my babies in the OR, which I'll talk about in a minute. So they took me into that room and the nurses came in. They do all, like, they ask you 1,000 times if you have any allergies or anything like that. And then they hook you up to like your IV in your arm and get the drugs started. So they put me on the Pitocin, and probably about an hour after I was on the Pitocin, like everything was still fine and I didn't have an epidural or anything yet. They came in and they said, we're gonna break your water. And I was a little bit nervous about that because with my daughter, when they broke my water, it really hurt. Like, it was really painful. And I know that they say it's not really supposed to be really painful, but for me it was, for whatever reason. It was just really not a nice experience when they did it with her. So I was a little bit nervous about that, but they ended up doing it. It was fine. And as soon as my water was broken, things progressed really quickly. Like, they had to turn off the Pitocin because my body just kind of picked up and went crazy. So I had contractions on top of contractions on top of contractions. It was really, really aggressive. And because I had twins, they told me that I had to have an epidural and it had to be very well established, because there was the possibility that I could need to have an emergency C-section. Even if everything looked like it was going really good, they said, you know, like, there's always that possibility, because you're having twins, that twin A could come out fine and then twin B could get stuck, or could go into distress, something could happen. So we just want you on a well-established epidural. We don't want to take any chances. You know, we just want that in place. And I was okay with that. Like, I mean, ideally, if I was only having one baby, I would have liked to try it naturally, completely, like a crazy person. But knowing that I had twins, like I knew I needed to have the epidural, so it wasn't even like a question. I just was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, we'll go ahead with that. So they did that. They placed the epidural around, I want to say like 9, maybe 9:30. So I didn't have to labor too long without it, but like by the time they placed it after they broke my water, then I was like, okay, yeah, I want it. Prior to that, I wasn't super needing it yet. I probably could have gone a little bit longer if they hadn't broken my water. But once they break your water, things just go crazy. So it wasn't long after they broke my water that things, like I said, progressed and got my epidural. And then by noon, they came in to check me and I was 7 or 8 centimeters dilated. And the doctor said, things could progress really quickly from here. So we're going to go to lunch from noon till 12:30. And when we come back, we're going to take you into the OR. So discuss it amongst yourselves who you want in the OR with you, because you can only take one person. And I had 2 support people with me. I had my mom and I had my husband. So I had them both there for different reasons. Obviously, my husband wanted to be there because they're his babies. And I wanted my mom there just because when you're having a baby, it's really nice to have somebody there who's actually had a baby and who kind of knows what you're going through and how stressful it is. And it can get a little bit crazy. So around 12:30, when they came back from doing, like, having their lunch, they came to check on me and I was pretty much ready to go. So they started prepping the OR. They gave my husband, who had decided that he wanted to come in, his gown and his cap and everything that he needed. And they got me kind of ready to go into the OR where I would have to have the babies, just in case there was ever an emergency. Like, I needed to be in the OR and ready to go so that they could just like cut and get the babies out. Prior to going into the OR, it was kind of stressful because I don't remember it with my daughter. I'm sure it happened because apparently it's very common, but I started to get the shakes. So I didn't feel cold. I just got like the worst shakes that you could possibly imagine. Like, I couldn't. He is a fussy one. I got the worst shakes. Like, I was like, my whole body was shaking like this. My teeth were chattering. Like, I couldn't keep my jaw from shaking. It was that bad. And the nurses said, he keeps interrupting me. He'll cry and then he'll stop. And the nurse said, that's totally normal. Like, don't try and fight it. Like, whatever you do, just don't try to fight the shakes because it'll make you feel worse. And I was okay. And they kept asking me, like, do you feel nauseous? Do you feel nauseous? I was like, no, I don't feel nauseous. Like, I'm just shaky. I'm just really shaky. And I feel like it just doesn't feel good. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like right before they were about to wheel me into the OR, I looked at the one nurse and I was like, I'm going to be sick. Like, the nausea came on like 0 to 100. And like, they got me a bucket, luckily, like right in the nick of time. And I just started throwing up everywhere. He's like a bird. It's like one little cry and then no more. I started throwing up and my poor husband, like, he was standing in the corner and he was looking at me and he looked so scared that I was so sick. It was that bad. And then all of a sudden, as fast as it came on, it was gone. Like, my Freezy and my popsicle were gone and everything, all the water I had to drink, all the ice chips that I chewed were gone. And then it was like, wait, it's time to go. So they wheeled me into the OR, and when they wheeled you into the OR, at least in my situation, it was really weird because there's like 2 teams. So there's a NICU team for baby A and there's a NICU team for baby B, and then there's the doctors that are taking care of me, and there's the anesthesiology team, and there's like the 3 nurses that I had, and my OB and her resident, and then like 2 other people with her, and then my husband was out in the hall because he couldn't come in until I was totally ready to go. So basically I was ready to push. He had to wait in the hall. And so they move you from one bed to another and they strap your feet not into like normal stirrups, but like, you know, those boot casts that are like gray and they're like massive and they're all foam and padded. Those are like in the stirrups and they strap your legs into those. And so you're laying there and you're totally strapped in. And it's just like a really weird feeling because there's like 40 people around and everything's just out there. And it's, by the end of it, I just had no dignity left. I was like, okay, it is what it is. Everybody's seeing everything. So yeah, whatever. Hold that thought. Okay. I think they're settled for the time being. We'll see. I might get interrupted again. So yeah, so finally, after I was totally ready to push and good to go, I looked at my nurse and I was like, I need to push now. You need to let me push. And she's like, we're not ready. Just hold off. I'm like, no, like, where's my husband? Like, I need to push. I feel like this overwhelming urge. Like, I need to go. So shortly after that, like a couple minutes later, they ended up saying, okay, we can go now. They brought him in. He came and he stood by my head and they gave him strict instructions. Do not stand up. Do not move. Do not try to look at anything. Like, we don't want you passing out because we have one patient and her 2 babies and you can't become a patient. You have to just sit there. So he was good. He listened. And with, I think if I remember correctly, I had 2 big contractions. So I pushed and pushed and 2 contractions. I think it was a few minutes, not very long at all. And our first little babe came out and they held the baby up and I just like, you have no abdominal strength when you're pregnant, but I just remember like craning my neck up, trying to look and see, and it was a little boy. And we were both so excited because we wanted one little boy. Like we didn't really care if we had a boy and a girl or 2 boys, it didn't matter. We just really wanted a little boy because we have our daughter and we just thought it would be nice to have one of each. So I looked over at my husband and he looked at me and they handed the baby to me. Like he was still, cord still attached and everything. He's covered in like this white goo and they just put him on me and it was like, I can't even try. Like, I'm gonna get emotional talking about it because it's just the best feeling in the entire world is holding that baby. And I think I talked about it in a video about Amelia before. It's like this love that you don't even know that it's possible to feel until you meet them. And it's like, you've known them forever. You've never met them before, but you've known them forever. And somebody said to me, it's going into labor and having a baby and giving birth is like going on a blind date where you know for 100% certainty that you're going to meet the love of your life. And it's so true. Like you're going on this blind date and you already know that the person at the other end is the love of your life because there's nothing like it. And that's what I felt. So it was amazing. So they handed him to me and I held him for a second and then they took him and my husband cut the cord. And because they were born a little bit early and because they were twins, they kind of had like the pods ready and they check them, they weigh them, they do all like their screen to make sure that everything's good. So they did that with him. And then immediately after he came out, they reached up and they broke my second water. So that was fun. So they broke my second water and they reached up and grabbed the feet of baby B. So as soon as they had the feet in their hands, they told me that I had to push. They were like, we can't pull this baby out physically. You have to push this baby out, but we're going to kind of guide the baby out. So the baby B was born footling breech, which was a bit stressful because footling breech is not ideal. I think it's one of the worst other than bum first. It's like the worst way to come. But so baby A was born at 1:25 p.m. and baby B was born at 1:29 p.m. So I'm just gonna spoil it here, she came out really quickly right after and she was absolutely beautiful. The nice thing about having a baby footling breech is that they come out with this beautiful head. So they look like a C-section baby even though they're not. She didn't have to go head first through the birth canal. She didn't have to get banged up and bruised. She came out looking absolutely gorgeous, and our poor little boy, he had like a cone head and his nose was all to one side because he had been head down for so long and just like pushed against the bones. She had been kicking him down. So he was a little bit beat up, but she came out looking like a totally unbruised peach. It was kind of funny. So they kind of rushed her over and took a look at her because she, I guess, swallowed a little bit of fluid on the way out. So they just wanted to take a peek at her and kind of clear that out. But then Both babies were fine. They put them both on my chest and they wheeled us out of the OR and back into our delivery room. And we got to spend a few minutes hanging out with them and just cuddling them and loving them.
There was nothing in between. So baby, we should start living.
Hey guys, sorry about that. So the babies got crying and I had to take a little break and give them some food before we headed out the door to our appointment. We are back now and they are finally sleeping. Just right behind me here. So I have them right beside me this time so I don't have to keep running out of the room to where they are. But they're snoozing right now, which is really nice. It's kind of a nice quiet time for me to just chill out. But yeah, so the babies did really, really great. The first couple nights in hospital were really tough. They were born small. So Olivia was 4 pounds, 13 ounces, and Joseph was born 4 pounds and 12 ounces, which is different than what we were expecting because he was measuring as the bigger twin the whole time. And then I guess they were just measuring him wrong, or just the fact that he was so smushed, they couldn't get a good measurement. I'm not really sure. But yeah, she ended up being bigger, which was fine because it was only by 1 ounce. So it didn't really make a big difference. But with them being under 5 pounds, they had to kind of be watched a little more closely and they had to be fed really frequently. And like I mentioned earlier, my husband was not able to stay with me in the hospital. So I was solo for 2 nights. I was there for 48 hours and then they discharged me and sent me home, which was fantastic because I really didn't want to stay there. Like, it's just so much more comfortable to be in your own environment at home and you just have more help. I mean, the nurses are great, but it's just nice to, you know, be in your own space. So they did pretty good. I was expecting them to potentially need NICU time, which neither of them did, which was so fantastic. And we came home. Since being home, it's been crazy. I remember with my daughter, I felt like I was tired and I felt like I was busy, but twins is a whole different ball game. And so many people have asked me about it, what it's like, and I'm gonna save that and do that in a totally separate video because I just have a feeling they're gonna wake up any second and I just don't have time to do it right now. But yeah, I just wanted this to kind of be a really quick birth story recap for you guys. Overall, my experience birthing twins was so much better than my experience having a singleton. The recovery was amazing. I'm 4 weeks post, but I think by a week post, I was feeling like $1,000,000. Like, I don't really know why or what was so different. They were not that much smaller than my daughter in terms of like head size and everything. They were almost the same. So I really don't know why it was so much easier this time. Like, the nurses told me that your body knows what to do when it's a second baby. So it's a bit simpler, but yeah, overall the recovery has been fantastic. The one thing I will say that's different this pregnancy is that I'm exclusively breastfeeding them. I'm not exclusively pumping because it would just be way too much to try and pump for 2. It just wouldn't happen. But exclusively breastfeeding 2 babies means I need to make like 60 ounces a day. And I think that works out to about 1,500 calories a day. And at the moment, the only food that I'm interested in eating, like, I can force myself to eat chicken, rice, vegetables, but if I had a choice as to what I ate, it would be like chocolate, candy, chips, ice cream, like butter, like anything that is so high calorie that it's actually disgusting. That's what I'm craving. And I think it's just because my body knows how much is going out and it's forcing me. Like, at this point, I can't even stop myself from eating those super high calorie things. That's all I want. And it's like I don't even have control over my hand to mouth action. It just is happening. So again, I'll probably talk about that more in my next video when I talk about what life is like with twins and bringing them home. But for now, we'll just cut it off here. It's been long enough. If you guys have any questions at all for me about my labor or anything that I didn't talk about that you want to know, any other questions about having twins or what I did to prepare, like, just let me know. I will link a couple videos down below, like my hospital bag video and whatnot. for you guys. Everything that I brought, I used. There was nothing that I brought that I didn't use this time, so that was good. I definitely packed lighter, and it was great. But yeah, so hopefully you guys like this video. If you do, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, think about doing it. I try to post every week. I'm gonna try and get back on track with that now that we're kind of getting into a bit of a routine. And I think that there'll be a little bit more fun videos coming up because we have two really, really cute little people that will be featured in a lot of those videos. So yeah, thanks for popping by, guys, and hopefully we will see you again next week. Bye.